You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. All right. A lot is going on. A lot is happening. And, oh boy, we got some huge news on Fetterman, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. You know, what's going on with Fetterman's been a mystery. He's been in the hospital, they say, for depression. People don't get admitted to the hospital for depression like this.
Maybe the mental hospital.
No, they say he's in a regular hospital. We know that there's something going on with Fetterman, and then something weird happened. He's sponsoring a bill in the Senate, even though he's in the hospital, which is impossible for him to have done. And here's the new news, and it's not Don. Don Jr. said he's a vegetable and he should be a bag boy at a grocery store at CPAC. That's not the big news. This is on Twitter, and this is from John Cardillo, who follows me, and he's a very credible guy that's well-connected and in the know. He says, this is on his Twitter, he's being told that Fetterman is essentially brain dead.
Oh my gosh.
Let me read the tweet exactly.
So Don Jr.'s right.
Mm-hmm. This is what he tweeted exactly. Being told that Fetterman is essentially brain dead.
Oh my gosh.
And he's being hidden because keeping him in office until August 18th avoids a special election, which Republicans would most certainly win. This must be investigated. Now, of course, this is on Twitter, and as much as I love Elon Musk, these fact checkers, I got fact checked on Twitter this week by the Twitter fact checkers on a tweet I put up there. Then I got a warning from the fact checkers on Twitter, and
That's really weird.
And this has a fact checker thing on this, adding context. I believe this story. You know, that doesn't mean he's not going to recover to a certain extent where they can bring him out in public. But usually when someone is very high profile, and he's only been in the Senate like 3 minutes, when someone's very high profile and they're in politics, people sometimes are in the hospital. It happens. You see photographs at least of them in the hospital with their family, so you know they're okay. And his wife, Ava Perón, or whatever her name is,
or they get in a car and drive by a crowd like Trump and wave hi at everybody during when he had COVID.
Yeah. Now, Fetterman's wife has left the country. She went to Canada, I think. She's been traveling, and all this stuff. So she's not hanging around the hospital. We've seen no photographs of him. There have been no press conferences with doctors. He's a very high-profile person because it was a high-profile race because he was up against Dr. Oz. But the main reason he's so famous is because he had the stroke and he's out of it. And now he's been in the hospital for, a couple weeks now. We're not hearing from him. And I tend to think that this story has a lot of truth to it, that they're putting off the inevitable. They don't want a special election in Pennsylvania. They're afraid a Republican will come in and win it because this is ridiculous. And they're just
couple that with what Don Jr. said, those two things kind of coincide with each other. And if that's the case, I mean, I don't want to celebrate that. I feel bad. I feel bad that his wife pushed him to run. She never should have done that. He was clearly a sick person, and the stress of the campaign, I'm sure, had a negative effect on his health. But he had a lot of people behind him and his wife and a lot of money involved, and they pushed him and pushed him. I don't know if he wanted to do it or not, but he didn't seem to know what was going on half the time. And I feel sorry for the guy. I really do. And but they elected him in Pennsylvania. They knew what they were getting.
Oh yeah.
And now good luck hiding him till August. I mean, that's not around the corner. That's like 6 months from now.
Well, even if it's I don't trust fact checkers, okay? Fact checkers are liars, okay?
It's 5 months, about 6 months.
Whenever you hear of a fact checker is just someone that the liberals put out there to get a spin going. I don't trust fact checkers. This is America. We don't need fact checkers fact checking. We can do our own fact checking, okay? But they're definitely hiding Fetterman. They're hiding the truth about Fetterman.
Seems so.
And these reporters in D.C. are just terrible people. They're not reporters. They're not journalists. They're just press agents, for the political establishment. This Fetterman story is a big story, and none of them want to investigate this or get to the bottom of it. Now, you were telling me, I had not seen this nor heard it, but Nikki Haley at CPAC today had something happen to her that's worse than being booed.
Well, here's something she said, first of all, which is, makes you sick. So let me cue this up here. And then apparently I put this in your Facebook group, that after her speech, they were yelling Trump, Trump, Trump. But this is an audio of what she said. You won't believe this during her speech.
I listened to some of her speech and I turned it off.
Let me play
and I missed some of it.
Together we can summon our fellow citizens to look past the failed ideas and leaders from Washington and find the courage to be part of the solution. I truly believe we can make this vision real in our time, because that's what I've seen in my entire life. As a brown girl growing up in a black and white world, I saw the promise of America unfold. As the wife of a combat veteran, I saw our people's deep strength and the courage to defend it. As governor, I saw our state move beyond hate and violence and lift up everybody in peace.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, those were Kathy's getting notifications.
She talks now. She talks like a liberal with all these virtue signaling terms.
Well,
As a brown girl in a black and white world, and Republicans don't talk like that.
Nikki Haley, I was listening to her speech, and I didn't get that far into it. And she was talking about, she had this Sarah Huckabee line about a new generation, and
the new thing.
And all this stuff. She's talking about some people are too old in government and everything else. She's talking about Trump. She's not talking about Biden, because she's running against Trump, not Biden. And you cannot trust this woman when she continues to talk about being racially discriminated against. And every time she talks, she's doing it here. She did it in her announcement. That's how liberals speak, and we don't want Republicans holding office that talk like liberals.
I'm trying to find where they were chanting Trump. I can't find it on Twitter, but
so Nikki Haley has got a lot of problems here, and the biggest problem with her is that she really is not a credible candidate. She only has 2% support. And she's being propped up beyond where she should be.
She's like our Kamala Harris.
She's being propped up beyond where she should be because Fox News is in love with her and they hate Trump. And Fox News is giving Nikki Haley a platform, acting as if she's at a certain level of a candidate that she's not. And there's this photograph when she was speaking at CPAC. It's an empty room.
There's no one there. It's probably just the press and her people that work for her. There's literally like 50 people in a room that seats probably 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah, she's speaking to an empty room, and you wouldn't know this watching it on television because they just have a close up on the podium. So she's not a credible candidate, and they're putting so much into her as if she is.
Why do you think DeSantis isn't speaking there?
I don't know.
Is he invited? I mean, Trump's going to be there tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, of course they want him there. He's a big draw.
I wonder why.
CPAC is not cheap to go to. To get tickets to go, to buy tickets, they're very expensive. Some of them are thousands of dollars. So the CPAC wants big-name rock stars there like DeSantis, so people will pay, for all the different things they have. So
he went last year.
Well, unfortunately, they moved CPAC from Florida back to Washington, and I was hoping they would have. If they would have had it in Florida this year, I would have gone. And I was going to possibly broadcast the radio show from CPAC if they did it in Florida this year, and then they did it back in Washington. It probably saves them a lot of money because these guys are all up in Washington. They have to fly them here and put them up.
He's got a plane. He could have gone. I think.
No,
it's very
DeSantis.
DeSantis didn't go.
I mean, CPAC. They got to fly in all these people, so I guess it's easier to do it in Washington. I don't know, but I don't know why they didn't do it in Florida. The two top Republicans are in Florida.
That's right.
Trump and DeSantis. So Florida is the center of the entire conservative movement, not just MAGA, but the conservative movement as a whole is based and centered out of Florida. It really should be here. And the fact that it's in D.C.
They should have had it at Mar-a-Lago. How cool would that be?
That would be awesome. The fact that it's in D.C. is a turnoff to me.
Yeah, it's exactly. Maybe I think but they have Trump there. He's the main speaker. I find it curious that DeSantis is not there. He's really avoiding Trump. It's very obvious that he's avoiding Trump. But at the same time, he's speaking at Trump's venues. It's really weird. He spoke at the Doral, and then he spoke last week or a couple weeks ago at a location right near Mar-a-Lago. It's almost as if he's trolling him. I really would like to know what's going on in his mind. And they're both kind of Trump's saying some things, but he's also being a little careful still. I think he's waiting to see what DeSantis does before he goes on the attack. I think he attacked him a little prematurely, and now he's like waiting a little bit till he goes full throttle. But I'm really curious when DeSantis is going to make an announcement. Nikki Haley is the only person that's announced so far that she's running, and Trump, those two. So, there's going to be a lot more people. Oh, Mike Pence, but nobody cares about him. So you got, 3 people now that have announced? People are going to start announcing a lot.
Now, this is not a scientific poll about Ron DeSantis. And, we're Trump people, but we love Ron DeSantis. We live in Florida, and he's great and all that. But I uncovered this thing about Ron DeSantis that I talked about on the radio this morning. I'm not going to go through it now. You can go to my YouTube channel and watch the video before this episode. When I was on the radio this morning, I went through this entire thing of DeSantis from his book, which was very troubling and very disturbing. But DeSantis, I can't quite figure out what the guy's doing right now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't know what's going on.
But I know this, and this is not a scientific poll, but I was going through my YouTube comments, people that leave comments on YouTube today, and I was going through my comments for the whole week because I talked about Ron DeSantis a lot this week, and there's not one positive comment from a conservative or a MAGA person about Ron DeSantis.
Oh boy.
Ron DeSantis has really alienated the MAGA base.
And and he slipped in that poll. They said his lead has completely been eradicated. Why do you think that is? All of a sudden, are MAGA people realizing that he's, like in his book, connected to the Bush people? Why do you think all of a sudden the tide, he was on a momentum and now things are swinging back, the pendulum swinging back to Trump? Why do you think that is?
Because he challenged Trump.
When?
Well, because people think he's going to run against Trump. And the word has gotten out that he's in with the Bushes and he's taking money from these Republican establishment Paul Ryan donors, and people believe it.
Well, and I want to say about his book, which you're reading, I haven't read it yet, but when you talked about on the radio show this morning and how his first chapter is about being at Yale and meeting the Bush family, obviously it was exciting for him. And, like I said when I called in your show today, he didn't have to put that in his book. You pick and choose what you're going to write about. He did not have to write that or even mention that. He wanted you to know, and he wanted you to know right away because it's in the first chapter. Of all the things he could really discuss, it's like on page 17. That's very early. He jumps right to that in the first chapter because that's setting the tone for the book, and it's laying groundwork. And he wants people to know, I met the Bushes, and we went to the same college. These guys that go to these Ivy League schools, it's like a club that Trump's not a member of, and that's how they view it. And now we know DeSantis is part of that club. I knew he went to those schools, but I didn't know he had that kind of a connection. So he just happens to become a congressman and then a governor. You don't think that the Bushes had anything to do with that? I hate to say this because I love DeSantis. But when you talked about that this morning, I started to think that he just used Trump. Yeah. That he was losing, and they said to him, get Trump to endorse you and you'll win, and we'll worry about it later. And because he has really distanced himself from Trump in the last few years, and I'm just starting to think that he used him to get elected. He didn't have anything to do with his second election, at all. So I'm starting to think that, and that really is not a good feeling to think that about him, that he would use him just to win and then just throw that relationship away. Because that was his plan all along. I mean, they're like not even incommunicado anymore.
there's something going on with DeSantis, and it doesn't sound good. Now, I want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. Your support means a lot. It helps us out a lot. It's greatly appreciated. And a great way to support the program and all the content that I bring to you is by becoming a Patreon supporter. And if you don't know what that is, you become a patron. You support the show as a patron. There's a link to our Patreon page in the description of this and every episode. There's a direct link on my website, briancraigshow.com. And there are perks to becoming a Patreon supporter, including access to commercial-free editions of each and every podcast episode. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on each and every episode. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, Rome, Wisconsin, Mike P., Paulette, Carlos, and Maria. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support. And again, if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the episode description. We're going to take a quick break and be right back.
Looking for a one-stop shop for both men and women's clothing? Look no further than allfrommary.etsy.com. That's Mary, M-E-R-Y. allfrommary.etsy.com. Have original and creative designs and unisex sizing. There's something for everyone and for every occasion, including Mother's Day, retro and vintage styles, girl power, nature, animals, and that's just the beginning. The good news keeps coming. Right now, allfrommary.etsy.com is offering a fantastic deal with 15% off all merchandise. Don't miss out on this amazing opportunity to snag some unique and stylish clothing at a great price. So why wait? Head over to allfrommary.etsy.com. That's Mary, M-E-R-Y, for all your clothing needs. allfrommary.etsy.com. Discover a breathtakingly beautiful and profoundly moving coming-of-age story in the book Dancing in the River from author George Lee, available on Amazon. Growing up in a small riverside town, Little Bright is thrusted into the political whirlwinds along with his family during China's Cultural Revolution. When a reversal of the winds of reform blows through the land, however, he learns the once forbidden tongue, English, which lends wings to his sense and sensibility. At college, he adopts a new English name, Victor. With the deepening of his knowledge of the English language, he begins to place himself under the tutelage of Pavlov, Sherlock Holmes, and Shakespeare. Join Victor on his uncharted journey to unlock his dilemma and unearth his destiny as his un-Chinese passion and tension threaten to topple his moral world and mental universe. Dancing in the River is a captivating, literature-focused coming-of-age page-turner and a story you'll never forget. From author George Lee, Dancing in the River. Order your copy on Amazon right now. Do you love shopping online? Of course you do. But have you shopped at Tush Store? If not, you're missing out on amazing deals and products. At Tush Store, they have everything you're looking for when it comes to fitness equipment, pet accessories, and tech gadgets. Whether you're looking to get in shape, spoil your furry family member, or upgrade your tech game, they have you covered. For all you pet lovers out there, Tush Store has a fantastic selection of pet accessories that will keep your furry friends happy and healthy, as well as an incredible selection of fitness equipment that's going to keep you in the best shape. If you're a tech enthusiast, you don't want to miss out on the range of cutting-edge gadgets. They have the latest and greatest tech products that'll help you stay connected and entertained. So why wait? Head to Tush Store right now at tushstore-2023.myshopify.com and start shopping for all your fitness, pet, and tech needs. They have competitive pricing, fast shipping, and excellent customer service. You won't be disappointed. tushstore-2023.myshopify.com.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. All right. So Kamala Harris and her husband are just two strange, very strange people. And, you know, there's something to be said about role reversals. You know, there's so much gender confusion in our society today with everything. You guys know how it is. And now that we've got the second gentleman, everybody always wondered what the first man who was the married to the president, vice president would be called. And sometimes in TV shows and movies, they talked about the first gentleman. So now we got one, the second gentleman, Kamala's husband. And his name is Doug Emhoff. And you got to beware of people that are married and they have a different last name than their husband. You know what I mean? That's all messed up right there. It's not like, she could be Kamala Harris Emhoff, but she's Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris's husband gave an interview. This is a messed up marriage. This is a messed up couple. Listen to this. This is Kamala Harris's husband.
Can we just talk about masculinity for a moment?
Yeah, this guy's the most unmasculine. I was
going to say, this guy's going to ask him about masculinity.
Yeah, this is a MSNBC guy. I can't remember his name, but he's kind of effeminate. He doesn't know much about masculinity. He knows
a lot about femininity.
Yeah. Well, so does Kamala's husband, as you'll hear. Listen.
Can we just talk about masculinity for a moment? Has being second gentleman changed your own view of perceived gender roles or what it means to be a man?
This is something I've thought about a lot and something I've spoken about a lot. There's too much of toxicity. It's masculine toxicity out there, and we've kind of confused what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
I don't know what he considers to be masculine, but that is the most effeminate husband I've seen in a long time. Yeah. I mean, that is just...
that's very interesting.
I don't know too much about this guy other than he's married to Kamala Harris.
Well, I think we know one more little tidbit now.
Yeah, but that's... what he says is a terrible thing. To be a woman in a prominent position, not that vice presidents, it really is not that big of a deal. They have no power. And it's, when somebody leaves the vice presidency, almost every time they're forgotten. Nobody knows the vice presidents of history. You can barely name the vice presidents of your lifetime if you think about it.
They don't do anything significant.
Not very often. I mean, if you start naming vice presidents in reverse from Kamala Harris, it'll get difficult, even though you were alive and alert.
It's like our version
when they
of Prince
were around.
Harry.
Worse. I mean, they're just totally forgotten people, and it's a really low level position. People don't. There's a little prestige to it, majesty to it, but these are forgotten people. But the image that America is sending out to the world is important. Nikki Haley, in her awful speech that no one watched today.
Ugh, what a horrible speech!
She was talking about how China says that China thinks that America's dominance in the world is over and all this stuff. And why shouldn't they think that, China? You hear. Exactly. The imaging of this country that is sent out from the leadership today, from him, the second gentleman, Kamala's husband.
Here you got people in East Palestine, Ohio, living in a cesspool, being poisoned every day. And they're talking about gender roles in our country in this interview. Their priorities are all screwed up. These people don't give a damn about everyday citizens. They don't care. All they care about is their social justice, virtue signaling BS.
That's right.
They feel superior to everybody, and they're so impressed with themselves because they're the first woman this, or the first gay that, or the first brown this. They're so impressed with themselves in that regard. They've accomplished nothing. And I don't understand why they just can't fix these certain problems that we have. I guess I do understand, because they don't know how to fix the problems, because they're incompetent, because they've gotten by on their whole career based on their gender or their sex or their color of their skin.
Or sexuality.
This is affirmative action, and this is people who have been pushed up through the ranks because they check certain boxes. But here you got these poor people in Ohio, which is horrible. And Trump went there and brought them some water, bought them lunch. And Biden still has not gone there. And I think he's afraid to go there because he's a feeble old man and he's afraid to get sick.
Yep.
And that's why he's not going. And Buttigieg was very reluctant. And did you see how he covered himself in safety protection? Probably used more protection there than he's ever used in his life. to go there because he was so afraid of getting exposed. That's why Biden won't go. They will not help these people. They're not going to help these people. And I feel so sorry. And they're sitting here on an interview. And I know he's the husband of the vice president, but she's supposed to be in charge of the border. Why, she's supposed to be doing something. And they're talking. He should have said to the guy, look, there's more important things in the country than toxic masculinity. And they are feminizing men. This is not an accident. This is all about China weakening this country. They are making strong alpha males seem dangerous, and they're trying to make them obsolete. That's what they're trying to do. And they do it on TikTok, and they do it. They're redefining men and what they are. And we see young guys now, and they're so feminine. It's like, I can't even tell if they're straight or gay anymore.
Like Kamala Harris, we know what she is and what she's all about. But she's the first woman to become vice president of the United States. And what we kind of find...
Does that even mean anything?
Well, what we kind of find with these things, like when Obama became the first black president, she's the first female vice president. These things have a natural progression to them where it's no big deal. Like when Obama became president, it was no big deal. It just, it happened. Now, if it was the 70s or 80s or the 60s, it would have been a big deal. But by the time Obama became president, it's not a big deal that a black man can become president. And here we are with a female vice president, and it's no big deal. It's a natural progression of our society. And what happens is this. It's like she thinks she's a big deal just because she's the first female. She's done nothing with the job. Even though the vice president has nothing to do really, she could use that position to do things and be involved, like help these people in East Palestine.
Well, that's why they keep saying things like, I'm the first woman, because they have nothing else to stand on.
Mayor Pete's the other thing. First off, he is not the first openly gay cabinet member. Janet Reno was. And I don't say that as a joke. Janet Reno was not in the closet. People didn't talk about it in the media.
Don't ask, don't tell.
But no, she was very openly gay. Janet Reno was state's attorney in Miami. Mm-hmm. She was born and raised in Miami, and I'm down here in South Florida. Everybody knew Janet Reno all these years. Everyone knew she was gay. She was not in the closet.
No, I think it was obvious.
The media hid it. They didn't talk about it. She was so. As far as I know,
and I'm sure there have been other gay cabinet members that we just didn't know about.
Openly gay.
Yeah,
and she was the attorney general for Bill Clinton. She was. As far as I'm not making a joke or anything. I'm serious. As far as I know, Janet Reno was the first openly gay person to be a member of a presidential cabinet, not Mayor Pete. And Janet Reno was very liberal and did terrible things, like this thing she did with Elian Gonzalez. She did a lot of terrible,
that was a big disaster.
Terrible things, Janet Reno. Okay, she's very liberal.
And the thing in Texas, Waco.
Yeah, but Janet Reno was an accomplished person. She was state's attorney in Miami. She had done things to get to that position. She didn't get the position because she was gay. Now, being a woman had something to do with it because Bill Clinton did say he wanted to have a female attorney general. The first person he nominated was not her, and they had a problem, if I remember. I want to say Zoe Bear, something was her name. She didn't pay a nanny's tax, something like this. She was this. Mayor Pete has zero life accomplishments. And he goes around, well, I'm the first gay cabinet member. I'm the first cabinet member to be in a same-sex marriage. I'm the first cabinet member to be in a same-sex marriage and have children. As opposed to doing his job. When you are a self-appointed role model, you do things to be a role model. You don't just say, well, I'm gay.
He hasn't done anything.
And I'm here. I'm a role model.
Who's more useless, Kamala or Mayor Pete?
Pete, because...
It's a toss-up.
No, Pete, because there's been disasters under his sphere of authority,
right.
and he doesn't do anything. And Mayor Pete, to be a role model as a gay guy, when there are disasters and obstacles under your sphere of authority, you take charge and you do a great job. You don't just say, well, I'm gay, honor me, make a movie about me.
Yeah.
I'm heroic.
Like he's the only gay guy in the country. It's kind of ironic because he's known as Pothole Pete because there are a bunch of potholes in his town, and then they appoint him as transportation secretary.
Yeah.
I mean, potholes fall under transportation. He failed at that. He couldn't even fill potholes in his little town. But then they make him in charge of the transportation in the whole damn country. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of ironic and comical at the same time.
Exactly. So now this is interesting. An NBC reporter went to Crimea and interviewed Crimeans on the street about whether or not they're Russian or Crimean. Now, remember, when Obama was president, Putin conquered Crimea and annexed it and made it part of Russia. And let me play this. And then what's happened with this reporter is interesting. So this is an NBC News reporter in Crimea talking to Crimean residents about Russia.
Is Crimea Russian or Ukrainian? Crimea is Russian.
Да.
Of course Russian. 73-year-old crack Soviet tells me. Zelensky will not get Crimea back because we have our commander-in-chief, Putin. Every one of them told us that they are Russian and that if President Zelensky thinks Ukrainian forces can come here, they will fight them. President Zelensky has said that the Ukraine war started here and it will end here, but no one was able to tell us how it will end and how much more blood will be spilt.
Okay. Now, a couple of things about this, and this is very important. First off, we're being told that Crimea is an illegal occupation. It should be annexed, back to Ukraine and all this. And this NBC reporter found that the people on the streets of Ukraine
feel different,
are Russian and want to be a part of Russia and consider it Russia. But there was a story in the Gateway Pundit today that there are death threats being made against this NBC reporter from Ukraine because of this story. And no one in the media is reporting this. Now, I got another soundbite here. This is Mike Lindell, who's at CPAC. And, of course, he's at CPAC, and he's, freaking people out at CPAC because he's talking like he always does, and they hate that. And the reporters, it's amazing to me. They think Mike Lindell's crazy.
Yeah, they do.
And I hear the way they talk about him. I don't know why they think that. He's a self-made millionaire. He's incredibly prominent, and I call him the Thomas Edison of sleep for all of his great products. But anyway,
well, because he's a Trump person, they think we're all crazy.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, he's at CPAC. And he's surrounded by reporters, and he starts talking about Ron DeSantis. And when Mike Lindell talks, it's very important to take him very serious because he's in Trump's circle.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Inner circle.
Yeah, the very inner circle.
Very.
So when Mike Lindell talks and he shares something, I think it's safe to assume, since he's in President Trump's inner circle, that he is echoing what President Trump thinks. And President Trump is very, very well informed. So here's Mike Lindell talking about Ron DeSantis. Let me cue it up here. Hold on, guys. 1 second. I had it queued up and I hit the wrong button. You got to put. I play the sound bites over my iPhone, and it keeps wanting to go to sleep every 30 seconds.
The media is covering up for Ron DeSantis. He's the Trojan horse. He is the Trojan horse. He's a Trojan horse. Do not believe anything you're reading by the media about Ron DeSantis. That's why Donald Trump is ahead in the polls by over 40%.
Are you back to Trump in 2024? Are you backing Trump in 2024?
Seriously? Am I backing Donald Trump in 2024?
What do you see as
Okay. So I know that audio is not that great, but I think you guys could hear it. He said several times, Mike Lindell, that Ron DeSantis is a Trojan horse. And with this new thing we're uncovering about his connection to the Bush family back at Yale and what's going on with the Bush family and DeSantis now, we got to start really asking that question as a serious thing and consider it a very strong possibility that Mike Lindell is right, that he is a Trojan horse.
If DeSantis hadn't written that in his book, I would say, Mike Lindell, I like you, but you're wrong. And I think that is a label that's going to stick. If they go with that, with DeSantis, I think that's a label that's going to stick. And I think if Trump comes out and says he's known the Bushes since he was at Yale, they're all Yale buddies. There's a lot of connections he has with them. Yeah. The baseball connection, the Yale connection, the politics. There's, Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida. DeSantis is the governor of Florida. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of connections with the Bushes, a lot of similarities. And they want nothing more than to dethrone Trump and get him out of politics. The Bushes, believe me, they're behind this big time. They want nothing more. Jeb Bush is still sore over that humiliating defeat.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that they feel DeSantis is their savior and the way to do it. And now the tide is turning. And I think this Trojan horse label is, if Trump goes with that, could be very damaging to Ron DeSantis, especially if he comes out with some kind of proof. Yeah. Because the media is really perplexed at the love Trump has still. Mm-hmm. They really, really thought that they would shift their love to DeSantis over Trump and that they would choose DeSantis over Trump. The only mistake Donald Trump made was he started attacking DeSantis too early. And it was confusing to people. It upset a lot of people. He should have waited until either the book came out or till he announced he was running. But anyway, that's water under the bridge. But this Trojan horse thing does have some merit to it because he's not a Democrat, but he could be like a rhino. And if he's in with the Bushes and if he owes them favors, they have power over him. If they have helped him in any way, shape, or form, or if he is enamored of them, which it sounds like he is, then they have some kind of power over him. He's not his own man. Trump is not enamored of anybody. Trump does not owe anybody. He doesn't idolize anybody that he has to impress. Yeah. He's his own man. And you cannot say that about Ron DeSantis anymore now that we know this Bush connection, because he might be just so in love with the Bushes since the time he was in college. They're going to have a lot of influence over him.
Okay.
I don't like that.
Trump did not start going after DeSantis too early, and I'll tell you why.
Well, we disagree on that.
Well, no, I think you'll agree when I say what I'm going to say. Donald Trump questioning DeSantis is what started this whole looking into Ron DeSantis that's going on. So, people weren't looking into Ron DeSantis. Now, the thing that came out in the book would have started setting sirens off. But people have been questioning DeSantis for weeks now.
You still think they're working together?
I'm starting to really question that.
They're not.
Ron DeSantis has not responded to any of these allegations that have been made against him, and it's getting worse. And every day that goes by, we hear something else, and it's really troubling. Now, still, he's a great governor. We love him here. He's done a great job in Florida. But it's starting to look like he was recruited by the Bush family when he was at Yale, and they've been grooming him all these years. And the Bush family hate President Trump for a lot of reasons, but they believe Jeb would have been the president.
Yeah.
And that they believe that Trump took Jeb's presidency away from him, and they're on a vendetta. And they're using DeSantis to get revenge because Jeb is not electable on the national stage.
Yeah,
now.
But he can make Jeb Secretary of State.
Well, no, they're both Florida residents, so they can't run together.
No, but he could appoint him to something, couldn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He can make him secretary of anything if he wanted. Now, listen, we're going to take a quick break. Let us know in the comments. Do you agree with Mike Lindell that Ron DeSantis is a Trojan horse? Let us know in the comments. We'll be right back.
When you give a gift, you want to give a gift that's special, memorable, as well as unique. And that's what you will find at Lavington Designs on Etsy. Lavington Designs is an embroidery shop stocked with monogrammed and personalized gifts that are perfect for everyone you're gift shopping for every occasion too. Birthdays, the first day of school, anniversaries, holidays, or just to give a gift because you want to let someone know you care. Lavington Designs have hundreds of items to choose from: monogrammed home decor, ladies' fashions, men's gifts, gifts for children of all ages, including babies, wedding gifts, sports bags, and that's just the beginning. And everything can be personalized just for you. Visit the shop right now, online at etsy.com/shop/Lavington Designs LLC. View the inventory and start shopping for that perfect gift. And they offer free shipping. Etsy.com/shop/Lavington Designs LLC. Etsy.com/shop/Lavington Designs LLC. If you're an e-commerce seller or aspiring to be one, you'll require assistance from professionals who have expertise in various areas like SMM marketing, digital marketing, SEO, graphic design, web development, and that's just the beginning. At eMars Pro, they employ effective tactics as well as strategies that most brands and retailers are not familiar with. The eMars Pro e-commerce digital marketing consultants will work with you based on the latest marketing trends, utilizing their high level of expertise to deliver results. With over 5 years in the industry, they've served over 100 clients and have a team of over 50 expert e-commerce consultants, handling account management for e-commerce marketing channels like Amazon, Walmart, and Shopify. Their success and growth rate stands at an impressive 99%, and they have a proven track record of effectively handling projects of any size and complexity. Partner with eMars Pro today and let them help you build and grow your e-commerce business. Visit their website, emarspro.com. That's EMARSPRO.com, or call them directly, 682-472-4939, 682-472-4939. Request a free e-commerce audit and schedule a free consultation call. emarspro.com. Get started on your journey to success right now. If you've experienced toxic behavior in your workplace, you're not alone. Navigating a workplace full of poor leadership, employee favoritism, and stifling creative ideas doesn't have to drain your confidence. Dr. Cassandra McBride-Smith brings you the essential guide to stopping toxicity in the workplace in the book Confidence Slayers, Fragile Souls, available on Amazon. This is your job survival handbook that will give you the knowledge and tools you need to survive the confidence slayers in your workplace. You will learn to unlock the power of recognizing and reducing toxic work culture, and learn how to lead with confidence as well as respect. Whether you're an employee, employer, leader, management, individual contributor, essential worker, professional, or a top-level executive, this is the book for you. Confidence Slayers, Fragile Souls, from author Dr. Cassandra McBride-Smith. Order your copy right now on Amazon.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. All right. Jean-Pierre said one of the most insane thing she's ever said. This may be the dumbest thing she's ever said. And that's saying a lot, Jean-Pierre, because she says a lot of crazy things. She's talking about a new bill that the Democrats are supporting for Washington, D.C. Listen to this.
To the team, and we have a couple of things that I just want to lay out for all of you and on what the DC bill does. It reduces maximum penalties for offenses like murders and other homicides, armed home invasion burglaries, armed carjackings, as I mentioned, armed robberies, unlawful gun possession, and some sexual assault offenses. I did talk to the
now,
team.
I got to tell you,
my goodness gracious,
there was, and I'm serious about this, okay? When I first saw this, I thought this was a deep fake video because I couldn't believe it. And so I went because I didn't see it live, and I went and found it from the RNC. They tweeted it so I could verify it. She's reducing penalties for some of the worst crimes.
That's incredible.
Murders, other homicides, she said, home invasions, and carjackings. Home invasions and carjackings are some of the most insane crimes and the most dangerous of dangerous criminals.
How much does she want to reduce all this?
I don't know. Why would you? You want to increase the penalties, not reduce them.
Yeah, they're just encouraging more crime.
The Democrats, I find it so hard to believe that most Democrats don't think that the Democrats have lost their mind. I mean, that's just an insane.
The problem is you don't have Democrats that are going to go against the party line and stand up to this.
Yeah,
I say, okay.
And I'm not when I'm telling you, I thought that was a deep fake. I did because that is so crazy. I'm like, there's just no way, and I had to go and verify it. Okay, this story, this is crazy. It's out of Ohio. The story I'm reading from, this is widely reported, but the story I'm reading from is in the New York Post. Okay. Multiple Ohio elementary school kids are facing assault charges after disturbing video caught the group of black students attacking white students and forcing the white students to say Black Lives Matter. This is according to police reports, by the way. Footage obtained by WKEF television showed a tall student who's black grabbing a much smaller student who's white around the back of the head and marching him across the Springfield playground, with another joining to hold the struggling victim. So this small white student has two black kids that are bigger than him holding him down. Others joined in when he was taken to an area near the swings, with one charging in and knocking the helpless youngster to the ground, throwing a punch. And there's video of all of this. You know, what's going on here, these are elementary school kids. Oh my goodness. And obviously, you know, there's some responsibility. They even though they're young, they know what they're doing's wrong. Children at that age don't really have opinions of their own. They're a product of their home. And there is so much anti-white racism being promoted.
True.
In American society. You know, we were talking on the last episode, Biden said, I may be a white boy, but I ain't stupid. You know what I mean? There's this whole thing going on that has gotten to the point where it is beyond it. You know, when I was in high school, there was we had a cracker slap day. And this was a terrible thing. And this was in the 80s. This was my freshman year of high school. So this was like 1985. There was a dean who was black. He had gotten arrested for being inappropriate with one of the girls at the school who was white. And it made the news, and there was charges and everything else. And the black students in school the next day after this came public launched Cracker Slap Day, and they attacked white students around the school. They beat one with a PVC pipe. I went up the stairs of one building, and there was blood all over the walls. I got out. I was in ninth grade. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a cell phone. You know, I just left and walked home, and I took the bus to school. I didn't live that close, and I walked home because it was dangerous. And you know what? Nobody thought anything of it. I mean, oh, well, you know, that's just the way it is.
Because the schools are run by liberals, and
that's
they're
right.
soft on crime.
That's
and they
right.
don't do anything to do, and it's much worse than it was back then. I hate to tell you.
We're in a very dangerous place. You know, we had eradicated racism that was brought to us in this country by the Democrats. We had a colorblind society like we've never had in this country. We were talking about Obama being elected in 2008. It was like, okay. It wasn't a big deal. It was like, okay, this is where the country is right now. And the liberals have taken this country back in time, reversing the skin colors, but taking us back in time to before the civil rights movement. And this story, could you imagine if the skin colors were reversed, if white elementary students did this to black students, the entire country would be shut down right now. They'd be in front of this school in Ohio. Parents would be arrested. They'd be on TV. Their social media profiles would be all over the news. Yep. There's basically a news blackout on this story. Yep. It's getting very little publicity. The few stories that have it, it's barely mentioned when they do it. And there's an epidemic of hate crimes going on in this country against whites like this. And it's being excused away as acceptable to right past wrongs that happened before any of us were born.
Yep. It's scary. I wouldn't want to be a kid in school right now.
No. And, you know, we were talking about Kamala Harris earlier. This is a time when Kamala Harris or Barack Obama could do some good, but they won't. They don't care. And to them, they probably think the kids deserve it.
Yeah, they agree with it. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the place we are in this society right now from the left are just ugly overall. Here's another story. Everything that's going on in this country is being done by the left. There's a story here about
Brian, they have a history of doing horrible things.
Yeah.
This is nothing new.
There's a story here about the break-in of Mar-a-Lago. And this story, by the way, comes from the Washington Post, which is as liberal as it gets. The Washington Post is Woodward and Bernstein, Watergate, very liberal. The Washington Post, okay, listen to this. Months of dispute between Justice Department prosecutors and FBI agents over how to best try to recover classified documents from Mar-a-Lago, okay, led to a tense showdown near the end of July last year, according to 4 people familiar with the discussions. Now, remember, this is from the hardcore liberal Washington Post. Prosecutors argue that new evidence suggests Trump was knowingly concealing secret documents at Mar-a-Lago and urged the FBI to conduct a surprise raid. But senior FBI officials who would be in charge of leading the search resisted the plan as too combative and proposed instead to seek Trump's permission to search his property, according to 4 people who spoke to the Washington Post anonymously. Prosecutors prevailed in the dispute, one of several previously unreported clashes and intense tug of war between 2 arms of the Justice Department, the prosecutors and the FBI. So Merrick Garland, this is according to Washington Post, the FBI said this is too hardcore to go in here and break in. And Merrick Garland said, no, bust down the gates, go in and do this. This government has been weaponized. Not only has it been weaponized, they're turning all kinds of people against one another. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about this national divorce, and they're talking about, oh, how divisive, how she's talking about. They're actually doing it. You know, these kids that attacked the white kids and held them down and beat them until they said Black Lives Matter, or Garland breaking into Mar-a-Lago. The left have gotten violent in this country. Now, they've been violent before. The Ku Klux Klan were the Democrats, and it was a political arm of the Democrat Party. And, you know, but they're violent again, the Democrats. They're encouraging it. They're justifying it. They're going out of the way to do it. And we are in scary times beyond anything I ever thought we would be in this country.
Yeah, it's scary for sure.
Well, you know, when all of us were born after the civil rights movement that are around our age. I know some of you may be older and remember, but, you know, you're pretty old if you do. But when I would see those old black and white films of those Democrat sheriffs or those Democrat governors and promoting segregation, or those white Democrats that were yelling racial slurs at the first black kids to go to the school in Little. All that film is in black and white, so it never really seemed real, and I just couldn't understand Americans being at each other's throats like this, or some of the Vietnam things you see. And that was all Democrats. Yeah. It was all the Democrats that were doing that then. And here we are now, with real-time live streaming video in 4K and 8K and high definition, everything else all the time. And they're doing it again. Back then, you don't realize it, but back then the way they were behaving was considered acceptable. And the way they're behaving now is considered acceptable. And those of you out there that are Democrats, you really got to reflect and say, ask yourself, what is going on with your political movement that they're breaking into presidents'
Brian,
homes?
They don't see it. They'll blame Trump. They just blame Trump for everything.
How can they justify?
They do.
How can they justify attacking white children?
Because we're evil,
like
and
this.
We're toxic, and we deserve it. They really believe that. We're racist and we deserve it. That's what they feel.
Well, you know, there really needs to be some leadership in this country to stand up and say no to this. Now, one last thing I just want to mention before we go away today. Okay, there's a lot of talk about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and some other books getting all these gender things going on in it. And I know people are upset about it, and I get it. I grew up on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and all that stuff too. There's a new trend going on in this country with these with bringing in these genders in these books like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's a fad. If you remember, a few years ago, they would take these books like Sense of Sensibility that were now in the public domain and turn them into zombie books. And now they're doing it with this. I'm not saying this is not a bad. This is not bad. These things they're doing are very bad. But what they're doing is they're coming up with a gimmick in books that are now available to the public domain and trying to come up with some gimmick to try to sell the books. And maybe the best thing to do is not promote the books that they're doing this to. and that might help them not sell the books. Who wants to go out and get some asexual transgender Charlie and the Chocolate Factory book? How many people really want that book? Who's going to read that book? Right? I mean, I can't see that for sale at Barnes & Noble, but you never know. You never know these days.